Fair Use Act Disclaimer.
Yeah, it's Moana, baby.
What's up mga kapitids? It's me again, Leandro Ligon.
And Kyle Martinez.
And we're back to present to you the final part of the ankle and foot episodes of Moy's Anatomy.
To show you the minor of your sole muscles.
Without further ado, let's begin.
From the previous episode, we've learned the bones articulating your ankle and foot. These are your tibia and fibula found in your leg part, and your tarsal, metatarsals, and phalanges in your foot.
Now we're going to discuss the arches of the foot. The arches of the foot are segmented structures that can hold up weight only. It also enables the foot to support the weight body and provides leverage while walking. The bones of the foot are arranged in two arches. We have the longitudinal arch and transverse arch that are held in position by ligaments and tendons. The longitudinal arch has two parts. We have the medial longitudinal arch and the lateral longitudinal arch, both of which consists of tarsals and metatarsal bones arranged to form an arch from the anterior part to the posterior part of the foot. The medial longitudinal arch consists of the calcaneus, the talus, the navicular, the three cuneiform, and the first three metatarsal bones, while the lateral longitudinal arch consists of the calcaneus, the cuboid, and the fourth to fifth metatarsal bones.
Another arc is the transverse arc. It is found at the medial and lateral aspects of the foot. It is formed by the bases of the metatarsal bones, the cuboid bone, and your three cuneiform bones.
Since we are done with the bones in your foot, it's now time to learn the muscles of your sole.
The sole muscles is divided into 4 layers from inferior layer superiorly.
Let's start with the first layer. The first layer consists of the following muscles. We have the abductor hallucis, flexor digitorum brevis, and abductor digiti minimi. The abductor hallucis originates from the medial tubercle of the calcaneus and flexor retinaculum and is inserted at the base of the proximal phalanx of the big toe. This muscle abducts the metatarsophalangeal joint of the big toe with flexion of the same joint. The flexor digitorum brevis muscle originates from the medial tubercle of the calcaneus, the same with the abductor hallucis, and inserts at the middle phalanx of the second to fifth toes. This muscle flexes the proximal interphalangeal joint of the second to fifth toes. And the last muscle for the first layer is the abductor digiti minimi. This muscle originates from the medial and lateral tubercle of the calcaneus and is inserted at the base of the proximal phalanx of the fifth toe. Its action is to abduct the metatarsophalangeal joint of the fifth toe.
For the second layer of the sole muscles, it consists of your quadratus plantae and the lumbricals. This layer also consists the tendons of the flexor digitorum longus and the flexor hallucis longus. The quadratus plantae originates at the medial and lateral calcaneus and inserts at the tendons of the flexor digitorum longus. This muscle assists the movements of the flexor digitoris longus, while the lumbricals originates at the tendons of the flexor digitorum longus and inserts at the base of the proximal phalanx and the extensor expansion of the second to fifth toes. Its action is to flex the metatarsophalangeal joints of your second to fifth toes and extend the distal and proximal interphalangeal joint of the second to fifth toes.
For the third layer, it consists of the flexor hallucis brevis, adductor hallucis, and the flexor digiti minimi brevis. The flexor hallucis brevis muscle originates from the cuboid bone, the lateral cuneiform, and at the insertions of the tibialis posterior. The tendons of this muscle have two insertions, which are at the medial base of the proximal phalanx of the big toe for its medial tendon, and at the lateral base of the proximal phalanx of the big toe for its lateral tendon. This muscle flexes the metatarsophalangeal joint of the big toe. Next muscle is the adductor hallucis. Its origin is from the base of the second to fifth metatarsal for its oblique head and plantar ligaments for the transverse head. This muscle inserts at the lateral base of the proximal phalanx of the big toe. Its action is to adduct the metatarsophalangeal joint of the big toe with flexion of the same joint. And lastly, the flexor digiti minimi brevis. This muscle originates from the 5th metatarsal bone and is inserted at the lateral base of the proximal phalanx of the 5th toe. Its action is to flex the metatarsophalangeal joint of the 5th toe.
And for the last layer of the sole muscles, it consists of your plantar interossei and your dorsal interossei. Also can be found in this layer is the tendons of your peroneus longus and the tibialis posterior. Plantar interossei origins at the interior shaft of the 3rd to 5th metatarsal bones and insert at the medial base of the proximal phalanx and the extensor expansion of the 3rd to 5th toes. This muscle abducts the MTP of the 3rd to 5th toes and extends the DIP and PIP of the 3rd to 5th toes. And for the dorsal interossei, it origins at the adjacent sides of the metatarsal and inserts at the lateral base of the proximal phalanx of the 2nd toe, medial base of the proximal phalanx of the 2nd to 4th toes, and the extensor expansion of the 2nd to 4th toes. This muscle abducts the MTP and extends the DIP of the 2nd to 4th toes.
And now for the nerve supply. The sole muscles are innervated by 2 nerves, which are the medial plantar nerve and lateral plantar nerve. These nerves are terminal branches of the tibial nerve. The medial plantar nerve arises beneath the flexor retinaculum and runs forward deep to the abductor hallucis with the medial plantar artery. This nerve innervates the abductor hallucis, the flexor digitorum brevis, the flexor hallucis brevis, and the first lumbrical muscle. The lateral plantar nerve arises beneath the flexor retinaculum and runs forward deep to the abductor hallucis and flexor digitorum brevis in company with the lateral plantar artery. This nerve innervates the quadratus plantae and the abductor digiti minimi from the main trunk, the flexor digiti minimi and interosseous muscles of the 4th intermetatarsal space from the superficial terminal branch, and the adductor hallucis, the 2nd to 4th lumbricals, and all interossi except in the 4th intermetatarsal space from the deep terminal branch. And we're done for today's episode. We prepared a lot for the upcoming episode, so you better stay tuned next week. I hope you guys learned a lot in this episode.
This is the time you have to say goodbye, but don't worry guys, you will see us again. If you have questions or comments, just message to us to our Facebook page, Movement Expert Society, or you can comment it down below on this video, or you can personally message me.